What's going on, guys? Well, I'm coming back to a series that I meant to come back to in October. Just ran out of time completely. A couple of years ago, I reviewed both Scream and Scream 2. And I believe that that's when Scream 5, coming out about in a week, was announced. And I said that year that I was going to review those two that year, the next two last year. That didn't happen. So I'm reviewing Scream 3 and Scream 4 this year. This week before Scream 5, because I refuse to call it Scream. It's Scream 5. I'm not calling it Scream, because I'm not referring to it as Scream 1996 and Scream 2022. That's just stupid. It's Scream 5. We're going to fill in the gaps here with the two Scream movies I have not reviewed yet. I really love the original Scream. Scream 2 was really good, not as good as the first one. Now we reach Scream 3. Do I hate Scream 3? No. Do I think it's the weakest of the series? Yes. And whether or not you're a hardcore Scream fan or not, I think we can almost all be in agreement that Scream 3 is the weakest of the series. Even if you love Scream 3. Scream 3 was written by Aaron Kruger, who wrote 3 of the 5 Michael Bay Transformers movies. It wasn't written by Kevin Williamson, the writer of the first 2 and Scream 4. For some weird reason, the studio said, you know what, you have an outline for Scream 3? Nah, fuck that, we're not going to use it. And hired a different writer. Scream 3 came out at a weird time. Scream 3 came out right after the Columbine massacre. There's a lot of critiques about media and how it portrayed violence, so the studio had asked Wes Craven to tone down the violence and up the comedic effects. So in order to talk about Scream 3, I think it's better to talk about what I don't like first and then get into what I like. And I'm going to talk about what I don't like, and it's going to sound like I'm bitching about the entire movie. But I just want to be clear again. I don't think Scream 3 is a bad movie. Just compared to the other 3, it's a disappointing movie. I could still watch Scream 3 and have some fun. So I'm going to talk about Scream 3. This is going to be full of spoilers if you have yet to see any of the Scream movies or Scream 3 in general. Before we jump right into the negatives, let's talk about what Scream 3 is about. The film takes place 3 years after the previous film and follows Sidney Prescott, who has gone into self-imposed isolation following the events of the previous 2 films, but is drawn to Hollywood after a new Ghostface begins killing the cast of a film within a film, Stab 3. This sees the return of Sidney Prescott, played by Neve Campbell, Gail, played by Courtney Cox, Dewey, played by David Arquette, and we have a slew of new people. We have people that are playing those characters in this movie within a movie, Stab 3. Now, Scream attempts to satirize the horror genre, the slasher genre in general. The first one was an attempt, and rightfully succeeded, at being a satire of the slasher genre and the tropes that come with the slasher genre. Like, for instance, in the first Scream, Sidney Prescott has a line where she's talking to the Ghostface killer's voice on the phone, and she says, "Why would I go upstairs when I should be running out the front door?" The movie actually has to come up with a situation and an excuse for her as to why she would have to go up the stairs. From what I remember, the door was locked or something, or she couldn't get the door open in time, so she was forced to go up the stairs. That's the thing it's trying to attempt to address, and by having her go up the stairs, it's making fun of that cliche, which is why Scream is so successful. 2 did the same thing. It was a satire on not just horror sequels, but Hollywood sequels in general, how they go bigger and try to be better. Scream 3 is attempting to do the same thing. Unlike the first 2, it doesn't really succeed. Scream 3 is trying to be a satire on movie trilogies and horror trilogies and the cliches that come with Hollywood trilogies in general, but unfortunately, Scream 3 does get away from what makes Scream Scream. You know what I mean? It's no longer a satire. It becomes exactly what it's trying to satire, not to the point where it's a parody. Scream 3 is a movie that just falls into all of those cliched traps that the movie is trying to subvert or make fun of, or attempt to address, and have to use those tropes to its advantage as a way of saying there's a point of no return here, so we have to use it. Scream 3 just does away with all that. It confuses what satire is with the horror cliches. And unfortunately, it doesn't make Scream 3 as tension-filled or as suspenseful as it should be. I'm also not huge on Scream 3 ganking Cotton Weary as the sacrificial lamb to open the movie. I'm cool with Cotton Weary dying. There are good ideas in Scream 3 like that. But the idea of having an already pre-established character in the franchise being the one to get ganked in the opening of the movie, because we know that these movies have big openings like this. The first one had Drew Barrymore. You think that she would be the main character in the movie, but instead, as a way to subvert expectations for the audiences, she's the one that is the sacrificial lamb in the first one. Jada Pinkett Smith is the sacrificial lamb in the second one. It's really weird having an opening that follows a pre-established character biting the dust, and I'm not a huge fan of the sequence either. It feels like it is played for laughs, and that really boils down to the studio wanting to tone down the violence and the bloodshed because of the fallout of the Columbine massacre. It doesn't do much for me. If Cotton Weary had died later on in the movie, it would have worked better for me. Having that as the opening is shocking for sure, but it just feels so out of place. It's like if Scream 5 opens and Gale is the one who dies, or Dewey is the sacrificial lamb, or fuck it, even if Sidney is the sacrificial lamb, then I mean the movie's gonna suck if that happens. But do you know what I mean? But do you see what I'm getting at? It doesn't really flow with how the openings of the other Scream movies go, and it's a bit too elongated. There are so many parts to this opening, it could have been trimmed down. There's also a good idea here with Sidney Prescott. And I'm going to get a little bit into this as well, because apparently Neve Campbell in her contract said she could only be on set for about 20 days due to scheduling conflicts. So the reason that what I'm about to talk about happens is because of scheduling conflicts and that clause in that contract. So there wasn't much of a way around that. The idea of Sidney Prescott being in a self-imposed isolation and in hiding, I think is a great idea. Her being like a call center for like self-help for people, really great idea. But Sidney Prescott is the main character of the movie. She's the main character of the Scream franchise. And in Scream 3, Sidney Prescott is barely in her own movie. She's barely in the first half. You get the bare bones of that idea. You only see, I think, like one person call into her makeshift self-help center. The movie sets up a mystery with her mother, but it doesn't really go anywhere in the first half because Sidney is just in hiding and self-isolation. So it's focusing a lot on the characters that are on the movie within a movie set, Stab 3, and the characters we already know, minus Sidney. Sidney shows up a lot in the second half. It was obviously done because of that clause in that contract and due to scheduling conflicts, but I think they could have come up with a bit of a better excuse as to why Sidney wasn't in the first half of the movie all that much. Or shooting a movie like this can be grueling. It's not on the scale of a big budget blockbuster, but any movie shoot is grueling, I get it. So why not just take as much time in those 20 days that you have to get Neve Campbell on set as much as you can and film as many scenes as Sidney as you can? I really don't understand the writing behind Sidney Prescott's character in this movie, at least in the first half. Parker Posey is also one of the most annoying characters I've ever seen. Not only this movie, but in this entire franchise. Jesus Christ. Holy shit.
Jeez.
What the hell are you doing?
Being Gail Weathers. What the hell are you doing?
I am Gail Weathers.
Here's how I see it. I've got no house, no bodyguard, no movie, and I'm being stalked. Because someone wants to kill me? No, because someone wants to kill you. So now, starting now, I go where you go. That way, if someone wants to kill me, I'll be with you. And since they really want to kill you, they won't kill me. They'll kill you. Make sense?
None.
You know, in the movies, I play you as being much smarter.
And as a sane person. For you, that must be quite a stretch.
That's funny.
Ha!
Need to get in that building.
Yeah.
There's a story in that building.
Maybe.
Gail Weathers would find a way.
Let's talk about the Ghostface Killer, because this movie attempts to address sexual harassment in the industry, which is actually really ironic because all of these movies are produced by Harvey Weinstein. And the fact that the movie is actually attempting to address that, I guess you could say is ahead of its time and a bad omen for Harvey Weinstein, that little shitbag. The movie within this movie, Stab 3, that movie's director is Roman Bridger. And at a point in the movie, you think he's dead. But it's really obvious he's the Ghostface Killer. Every Ghostface Killer in this series is pretty obvious. Like, it's obvious Billy Loomis was the killer in the first one. Obvious that Timothy Olyphant was the killer in the second one, or one of the killers in the second one. They always have this predictability factor, so I'm not knocking that against the character of Roman Bridger, nor am I knocking the fact that he is the killer in this movie. I like that idea. I like that it's a movie director who is actually committing these murders. Roman Bridger's motivation, though, I cannot side with. I downright hate it. As I hinted at before, talking about Sydney in the first half of this movie, it sets up this mystery with Maureen Prescott that just feels like it's out of left field, and Roman Bridger's motivation is out of left field too. This just feels like something that is so tacked on. Roman Bridger's motivation is that he's the half-brother or step-brother of Sydney because Maureen Prescott was his real mother, and he tried to seek her out but was immediately rejected, so he felt really jealous that he wasn't a part of her life. So he decided to blackmail her by gaining knowledge that she was philandering with other people when she was trying to make it as an actress, and that's how Billy Loomis knew that Maureen Prescott was fooling around with his father or something. I don't know. This whole thing is like a scatter plot. It's this movie attempting to go bigger and better. And this is a prime example of this movie just totally forgetting what Scream is all about. They were definitely trying to attribute the Halloween H2O thing, where Michael Myers and Laurie Strode are actually siblings. I don't know why that idea made it into this movie, but I hate it. It's dumb, and I can easily fix Roman Bridger's motivation. Think about it. What if Roman Bridger's motivation in this movie was one of two things? One, what if he was just so into and obsessed with the Woodsboro killings that this is the reason he's making a movie, and he's just masquerading as the Ghostface killer when he's not making the movie because he's so obsessed with the actual phenomenon of these murders? That would make all the sense in the world. Or what if he is just such a huge self-obsessed Sidney Prescott fan and is so jealous that she's taking the spotlight over his career and she's more famous than him? Boom! That fixes everything with Roman Bridger's motivation in this movie instead of him being Sidney's half-brother or some shit. Ugh. That's not to say Scream 3 doesn't have good things about it. I like the in-universe movie within a movie that I keep mentioning, Stab 3. I like how eventually, and I think it's in Scream 4, we eventually get to like Stab 6 or Stab 7. So I like that. I like that the movie is a little bit more meta. It's a little self-referential. It's a little self-aware. Even if it is a bit too comedic at times, I think it just makes sense in this world to have these murders be such a phenomenon that they would be so popular that somebody's going to make a movie out of them. That's fine. I like seeing all of that. I like seeing Courtney Cox Gale interact with the other Gale. The original cast, David Arquette, Courtney Cox, Nev Campbell especially, they're all great in the movie. But the one constant throughout all four of these movies, big reason why Scream 3 isn't terrible, is Wes Craven. Wes Craven, even with the restrictions that the studio was putting on him, still manages to create a somewhat suspenseful movie despite a really weak script and those restrictions. This has Wes Craven's stamp all over it. The man was just a master at directing horror. He knows how to subvert the cliches. He knows how to play into the cliches. He knows how to play into the cliches that are attempting to subvert the cliches. Wes Craven was just a master. I'm really curious to see what Scream 5 is going to do now that Wes Craven has unfortunately passed away. And that movie has a couple of different directors. Are they going to infuse their own energy into it? Are they gonna replicate Wes Craven's energy? The man was just so influential, and his influence is still all over this movie. He's got some good kills in here too, and he at least makes the set pieces engaging. He throws a lot of energy into the set pieces. The set pieces aren't as interesting as they are in the first two, but at least they're not boring. And I know boring is a very generic term to describe a movie or parts of a movie, but he still has that energy. He infuses this movie with that energy and that vitality that the Scream series needs, and I'm hoping that Scream 5 does that. I think I've talked about my main criticisms with Scream 3 and my main positives, and the positives really save the movie from being a complete disaster. It's a huge mixed bag for me. I just wish that there were things that went differently, and I wish that the movie just didn't fall into the trap that I think someone who isn't Kevin Williamson, who's writing this, would fall into, and that is just going against what the entire Scream series is all about. You're playing into the hands of what you're addressing. And unfortunately, Scream 3 has lesser of an impact on you as an audience member, especially with some of its outrageous plot twists, but it's still a fun movie to watch, mostly because you like seeing the cast coming back and Wes Craven's beautiful energy in his directing, and a lot of the meta references and the in-universe stuff is taking place on a movie set, and the in-universe movie Stab 3. All of that is fun, and I can appreciate a little bit more of the comedic tone when all of that is being addressed. Just not my favorite Scream movie. I don't think I met a single Scream fanatic who said Scream 3 is terrible. Even the most diehard Scream fans can have fun with Scream 3, and I think that that's actually a testament to it being the worst of the series, but still being super appealing. It's not like Friday the 13th 5, where it's just fucking terrible. Halloween Kills because evil dies tonight. So I give it credit for at least still having the mass appeal and still being able to be appreciated by such a dedicated fan base. All in all, I'm gonna give Scream 3 a C+. It's honestly the lowest grade I'm going to give the series, hopefully. I mean, we'll see what happens with Scream 5. So stay tuned very soon for my review of Scream 4, or as I like to call it, Scriforum, because that's how it's stylized. I'm going to try and get a review of The Witcher Season 2 up. I reviewed Season 1, so I feel obligated to review Season 2. I totally forgot it was out, so that's why it's super late. I'm trying to play some games and catch up on movies at the same time. But I'm going to try my best to get that out in a timely manner. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex Madden, and I'll see you at the movies somewhere.